Right here. I guess I started it now. It started.
Have you got the recorder here?
Does anyone have a copy of the cap stuff?
Yep, you hold on just a minute. I will pull it out for me.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, hey there. You Dawn?
Hi, Dawn. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
We haven't started yet because we didn't have everybody here, so.
She's the community impact youth assistance program.
Nice to meet you finally, right? I know. I've talked to so many people and it's like,
Now you know.
yes, that's awesome.
We don't have a sheet for people to sign into either up here either.
Okay.
Do you have cap stuff?
I'm going as quickly as I can.
I've asked about it twice.
No.
Can we make copies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll grab a few. That's no problem, please.
Oh, the ones you started.
This one start? This one start?
The formalities.
Yeah, the pledge
Well,
and
she hasn't got the paper folder out here yet.
that's fine. Still hand that out to me. It's the last presentation, so. Get her started, right?
Get it going, Don.
I'll be over soon, no doubt. You're ready for.
I was thinking today, remember when we used to have you guys come in and you would go on and on for like an hour?
Yeah, there was some really long, yeah.
Yeah. Back when I first started on the budget committee.
What do we have a limit, time limit now? 15 minutes?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I guess you want to be the timekeeper?
No,
have a
not
timer.
that, not for that. They don't go over like they did before.
But I also think that you folks are really more familiar.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, it's
That's a good-
pretty vanilla.
Yeah, it's just.
When you do it year after year, it's pretty
Yeah.
standard stuff.
I think we can go on and do the Pledge of Allegiance anyway. So I'm gonna call to order the meeting of the
Yeah,
October
this is
9th.
just jam, so, sorry.
That's Jan? Okay, of the October 9th meeting of the Tilton Budget Committee. We'll start this with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And we'll have the minutes of the meeting the next time. And our first guest this evening is the Youth Assistance Program with Don Schimberg. So Don, you will come up and join us. The camera is going, right?
Yep, it's all been going.
So,
I I don't think any of us have changed since last year.
So,
All the same
yeah,
people.
it's nice to see you
Good to
all.
see you.
Okay. Thank you. So, I'll start with one of the things that I have in my folder here. My board met on September 20th. They had looked at the preliminary budget I had given. They had seen that on the internet, and they were going to meet to actually vote on it. And of course, they had some discussion, and they wanted to make some changes. So, so I have that here today. So I'd like to just distribute that, and then I can answer any questions you might have. So it's a pack of just 2 sheets. One is the format that you folks have me do first, and then the second would be the breakdown by the 2 towns.
Thank you so much.
The changes that they had asked me to include are in the areas of training and travel. We hadn't increased that for at least the past 7 years since I've been this employee. And so they had a discussion about wanting to really send me on some national, like maybe a national training, so I can get some really up-to-date information. And in particular, as you're probably well aware, we've seen an onslaught of the vaping offenses in school, going as low as one youngster was under 12. So I'm getting a lot of those referrals. If not immediately for the younger ones, I'm getting them from court. So, and there's just a lot of stuff that kids are using. So that's one area that we really move on to. So, if you have any other questions about that, just
What lines were changed, and is this reflects the change you already?
this reflected the
All right.
change.
Okay.
Okay, so the lines that were changed were education,
Yeah,
which is about the 5th one down.
yeah, I see it.
Okay, and then travel, which is the last one.
Okay.
Okay, and again, education so that I can afford to go to a more costly event and training, and then the other travel would be so that I could get there. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What was the difference in the change?
Overall, it was an additional 1,000 to the travel budget and an additional 500 to the education, so it was a 1,500
Okay.
change over what I had given you earlier.
But the bottom line seems to be the same. Or-
No, it's just
Oh, I
different.
see.
Now,
Yeah, so the overall change,
2,000, a little over 1,000.
yeah, and the,
Okay.
right, so the overall change to the budget was 1,484, and
Okay,
then
yeah.
the Tilton share was 677.
Cool.
What other issues other than the vaping have been on the increase?
A lot of drug and alcohol, still continuing to be a struggle for many kids. And going one step beyond what we're really seeing, which is troubling, are those young people growing up without their parents present. So we did just recently start a support group. So it's going to be a teen peer support group. So we're going to, have the kids come. Right now we have a very small turnout, but we're only on our 2nd meeting. And these are kids whose parents are lost, they're either deceased, they're incarcerated, or they're missing. And that has been, it's not new this year, but it is becoming more and more obvious. And again, there's always been some of that in our communities. There's always been people who've been raised by their grandparents and they've done a good job. But now I think we're seeing a lot of trauma that comes along with, I've worked with kids who the amount of anxiety on their shoulders because mom just got released from jail. I don't know where she is. I'm afraid she's going back with her old group and that kind of stuff. So that's huge.
Has your court referral been up because of that?
It is up because of all of the behaviors associated with that kind of stuff. But also too, Jane, what has gone up is the young people needing support around these issues. So when I first started this support group I was thinking teens. I was thinking middle school and high school. We see who we get, and we might subdivide it. We'll see. My first 2 referrals were 9-year-olds. And I was like, okay, well, they're so young, But then I thought, well, we'll just see who's interested, and then we'll work with who comes. And, so in that group, I will be working with Ashley Dalpart. She just got married, so it's not right. And she's from Health First, so she has more of that mental health background.
Yeah.
So, so we'll work together. So and we're hoping, it's a hard group to draw out, especially the older teens. They're hurting and they have a lot of worries, but they don't necessarily want to step forward and say, I want to talk about this with my peers. So we'll see.
What are some of your support services that you use?
But just a general
Yeah,
kids,
I mean,
people who walk in the door? That's a great question.
We have a lot of people that we give money to, and I don't know if you use some of those people too.
Oh, I see.
Like-
We do work we coordinate our services sometimes. So I work very closely with Sarah Fox from the Office of Student Wellness, and she is funded from the Systems of Care grant. So I work very closely with her to do, a more prevention work.
Is that from the schools?
Yeah, she is
Okay.
now
Okay.
a school person.
Because
Yeah.
Office of Student Wellness, I haven't really heard of that.
No, it's fairly new.
Yeah. So that's state,
Last year it started, I believe.
is that a state or it's just an educational, the school system thing?
It's a grant that came through for, actually, it's a very interesting grant because
It's a federal grant, I believe.
Yes, and part of it is going to the Franklin School District.
Yeah.
Ours came channeling through our school district,
Yeah.
and then Laconia has one. And so they're each working in conjunction with each other, but also serving their own, area, which has its own unique needs. So we can do certain things with it. So it's been very cool. It's a 3-year grant. Again, hoping that it will continue. So we're also working on seeing what is sustainable if funding changes. Okay, so
Any other mental health agencies?
again, Ashley with Health First,
Health First.
she will be helping me with this. Christy Pierce was from Health First. She's a master's in social work. She had been her. She's Chuck and Lisa Drew's daughter, Christy. Yeah, so she was with the school, so she's got a lot of background, so I can draw her in. And one of my favorite people just has an office right upstairs, and that's Pat Tucker.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I do some supervision groups with the Family Resource Center, so, we work.
I was gonna ask
closely.
you if you work with them at all.
Yeah, we do. And sometimes we have clients in, jointly. So, I may have, just recently this year, I had a young person who she wanted to come back to youth assistance because she remembered me when she was younger, but she really did have, was struggling with substance misuse. So I was able to help her, but then also get her involved with them. And, those are supportive times, but, so we really do try to fill those gaps. And kind of I think they call it the warmer handoff, like when you know someone and they trust you, but then you can help them get where they need to be a little bit more. So, so that's what we want to do. We don't want to just dump anybody.
That's good. I know it's just a good network around, so I'm glad that you're using it. Well, everything's pretty much the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
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 It
The conference you're traveling, it's a conference you're traveling to? So that's why the travel expenses go?
is. Exactly.
And you need this conference, I guess, to stay current, essentially?
Right. My whole board of directors, which Catherine Dawson is on my board too, so she was at that meeting, and they were just like, yeah, we really want you to increase these items. And I'm kind of like, Jane, you know how I am. I'm just kind of, not really a penny pincher, but I'm just like, I do, and I will always
Penny
take
pincher,
advantage.
I think.
Yeah, penny pincher. So I always take advantage of what I can get free. And there are some good things that we can do free, and I'll continue to do them.
But things have changed a lot out there.
It's not free, it's the taxpayers that do it.
Yeah, ultimately, but yeah, so but you're right, so they were like feeling very strongly. So, but I also know it does depend on what you guys do. Makes sense, so.
Any other questions?
Nope, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. Thank you.
Good job, always.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Does anybody ever stop in to see you in your little office down there? Every time I go down there, I think about going in to see you, but I never do.
Well, you're always welcome. As a matter of fact, Noelle stopped in, one of the police officers stopped in just today. And I was really glad she did. Just a chit chat, and then we talked about one of the kids that had gotten into a bit of trouble. So, yeah.
Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Thanks,
Have a
Don.
nice evening,
Yeah.
everyone.
Take care.
That's it.
Good night.
Good night.
I've been interested in the fact that the Resource Center has not come here for any funding,
Right.
because we're using them a lot, I think. I know
Yeah,
Heather-
I think
Yeah, no, we are using them a lot. I've never seen really how
And
many.
What is it,
They
resource center?
get the grants from,
Yes, the resource center.
Michelle's a real
What are they
local,
for?
yeah.
Family Resource Center, down where the old post office used to be.
Right, where Sicko is and the horse shop is.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
right behind the railroad track right
But
there.
they do a lot of stuff that I think used to be held at the time, but they do infant care, teaching mothers how to take care of their infants, the
That's
alcohol
neat.
and drug abuse. They do a lot of work, but they don't, I'm surprised they've never come to us for anything.
How are they funded usually? Just privately or?
She writes grants, the director, who's the minister of the church down local. She's just a real go-getter.
It's awesome.
Everybody got the letter from Lakes Region. Did you see the letter that came in from Lakes Region Planning? And we have not in the past.
I don't think it went to everyone.
Yeah, I
we
think
just sent
it
it.
came from her.
Is it in here or in the email?
It was in the email.
Oh, yeah.
Just to Jane.
Well, they were saying that they're not a nonprofit organization. We're a member, the town's a member of them, and they didn't think it was appropriate that they should come here. They haven't come here for the last couple of years, so I think we should continue with that. It's just that some of the things get put on here that really shouldn't be, like the cemetery and all of that, so.
Sorry for questions so much.
We used to get like some planning one time. We used to give them that years ago.
I know. See, they're not nonprofit, like, they come
Okay.
and do a service for us,
I see, yeah.
we pay them,
Yeah,
and their rates aren't cheap.
okay. Yeah.
They do a lot of good for the town, there's no question about that, but, they aren't a nonprofit. So those are the ones that we should be dealing with.
You did rate break money last year.
No, because remember the guy,
Never
he didn't
showed
show up like 3 times. And he showed up once, and then he didn't show up the other 2 times because there was a conflict. You remember?
Okay.
Honestly, no, it's been a year.
Wait, where's this?
Your child and family services.
Yeah, they were
Awesome.
child and family services, and they do a lot of good, and, but he just didn't show up, and we had to have it cut out someplace, so that's why he
Cut them off.
ended up getting any money.
Just wondering how many times I should give them money.
They have been.
We have a separate bid thing.
Now I'll have to bring in a big bowl.
I got a bunch of-
Put it in the chocolates.
I got a bunch of fireballs in the car.
Still them in here for the heated meetings, you know. Chill everybody out with some fireball. Are you talking about the fireball king?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the shots.
No.
So next we should have waypoint and then cap. Let's reach and mental health.
I had an email today about confirming that Paul would be here tonight for
You what?
7:30.
What'd you say?
I had an email today from Aaron confirming that Paul would be here today
Okay.
for 7:30. Do y'all have a copy of Waypoint?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Just looked it over.
And Lakes Region,
Mental health, yeah?
mental.
Yeah.
I have that.
I forgot everything.
Pardon me, Jane,
Mhm.
would you like me to book every Wednesday in November also?
How many will we have left? I don't think we'll have any left, will we?
Are we meeting next 2 weeks?
Yes.
Are we meeting the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Every Wednesday now on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we'll have any, we won't have any left, will we, in November?
Yes, I've had a couple of people request the 1st of November.
Probably.
I'm available for that day, sadly.
Which one?
First of November.
Not November 1st,
First
November
week.
6th would be the first
yeah,
Wednesday in November, but normally our scheduled meeting would be the 13th.
yeah. No, but we'll meet every week until our budget's done, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do.
So
Once
if I-
we start meeting weekly, we continue to meet every week.
Are we gonna vote as we go along this year?
We can if we have enough time, if we, you know, we're not pushed, unless we want additional information.
But we're not gonna vote that night, we're gonna wait till the following week, right?
Well, we could vote that
Oh, we
night.
broke that out already in the meeting, didn't
Sometimes we need to have questions that we need.
Yeah.
we? Yeah, that's what I thought we were, said.
Sometimes we
if
have
saw-
questions we need answered, like,
Because last year we waited too long on some, and then it, like, we didn't know, we didn't remember, and then we had to call back and ask. That's why I think we should, I think we talked about at the beginning of this year meeting, that we would go, we would vote
well,
next
there's
week,
some,
and then
some
we
we
need to
can vote
reopen.
on right now. We can vote on Park Cemetery and those, because those really don't come to see us.
True.
And we could vote, you know, on things like that. And I would feel comfortable voting, calling a vote tonight on, yeah,
On what?
yeah, youth assistance.
Yeah.
The one we just had, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with
Yeah, we
that.
have one, so.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, it's 7:30 and he's not here.
Well, just do some voting.
Hmm?
Should we,
And take a walk downstairs.
7:27.
should we vote on,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the request for, youth assistance program.
I'll second.
$1,000. that it? So, I got one talking.
On the last page.
Yeah, for $48,935.
Is that the updated one?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Well,
Do I have a second? You second it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So you got that? We're gonna fund them for their request?
48,935.
Yeah. That's one where we do, which Northfield was more than we do.
So what was the cemetery?
Hmm?
The park cemetery. Find that real quick.
Yeah.
At least I'll look at it before we.
It's a contract, you don't have to,
Okay. So essentially you have to pay anyways.
yeah, so, and the other one that we have to pay
At least when
anyway
we
is,
see what it is, you know,
the other one we have to go down is, the dog pound, Birchwood. It's Birchwood, right?
Birch Hill.
Birch Hill.
Would they have trying to, are they use, the town uses them for strays or something?
Use them for their dog pound.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
They weren't last year.
We have to use.
I don't remember voting on that last year.
It's not something that, it's just a pass-through, it's a
Okay.
contract.
All right.
So that's why we vote on it, because it's under the categories of other services.
Uh-huh.
So that's why we do it.
I don't have that. Send Park Cemetery. Does anyone have a copy of that Park Cemetery?
They don't send in anything.
Oh, they don't?
No, we just have a figure.
Do we not have the figure in front of you, by chance?
I don't have it in front of me right now. That's why usually when we have the budget, we just float.
Look through the budget online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Tim will have the budget for us. He hasn't had an opportunity to have it for us for September, so he'll have that for the next meeting.
Okay. Is there anything else we can, there's nothing else we can approve then? There's nothing else we can approve then?
No. Bill, what I usually do is talk with Tim the day before the budget meeting and get any update he has on anything, if he has a financial report ready. And sometimes he gives us that cheat sheet which shows
Okay. Can we see if the next person, see if Kat can show up early, maybe we can give them a call. Has anyone confirmed from Kat that they're coming? Yeah.
well, they're not due here for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I opened the front door.
You do have it wide open? There's gonna be people sleeping downstairs. We should people out. Hello.
Hi, Paul.
No, I'm famous.
Huh?
I'm famous, I said. Am I the only one showing up, or?
Did the only one at 7:30?
You're the only
Oh,
one
I'm just,
that's
and I'm late, I'm sorry, I got lost.
Okay.
I took some wrong turns, excuse me.
Well, we're the same group we were last year, Paul, so.
I remember you guys. I have my numbers. I apologize, I really do apologize for being late.
It's okay.
Yeah, a couple minutes.
It's only 2 minutes.
You have a sign-in sheet.
Oh, yes. it's
Hey,
Marina, how are you?
Oh, yeah, hi, we spoke on the phone, nice to
Yes,
see you.
yes.
Oh,
So,
oh,
yeah,
you-
just anywhere. I'll
What,
fill it
just
in.
like,
That you, yeah, print your name, sign
do you need my address or
No,
anything,
your
or?
name. No, just a sign-in sheet.
That's
Thank
gonna
you.
change
You have
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have an application in front of you for, I think, $3,000 for the services. Well, we rendered and we were looking to render next year. As I understand it, we have served 23 people in the town of Tilton across 4 different programs as our family counseling, family support, the parent aid program, and Camp Spalding. We estimate that the 731 hours of service across those different things. Of course, Camp Spalding skews it slightly insofar as, there's a kids going to camp all day. So it kind of builds up those hours. Again, our sort of market, were we be able to charge the market price to everyone fully, that's 53,000 something there you see. But like again, with Camp Spalding, and I'm not talking our case down, but I'm just sort of saying, we supply camperships to 120 kids who are under the poverty level, and we wouldn't be sending them, we couldn't send them at market price anyways, but we do it in cooperation with the YMCA of Nashua and the Y of Concord, and they do charge full freight for the kids, and it's like something like $1,300 for a 2-week period, and we charge them hundreds. It's a sliding scale. We call the parents, they say we can ship in 100, it goes down to $40, and most are in the sort of $100 range. I don't know. I don't want to over talk. Do you have questions about the services or the application?
Well, how many kids from Tilton have you serviced this year?
Well, individuals from
Yes.
from Tilton is 23 total.
Okay.
But those are also, we do a lot of the family counseling support and parent aid programs will be the family entire.
And how many families?
Families, I don't have that number. So if you look at the lines, family counseling, that's individuals served, that's that's roughly 5 to 6 families plus the Camp Spalding kid. All the 6 kids in the Camp Spalding would just be children, not their families, obviously. And again, our services like family counseling and parent aid tend to be intense, so those are in times of crisis like incarceration, removal from the home, like foster care, substance abuse issues. So sometimes the number of people aren't great, but the services they're receiving are substantial. Like for the parent aid program, I suspect that's an intervention with a family or 2 for the 667 hours total.
How much money do you get from the surrounding communities?
What's that?
Just like changes the third sheet in.
The third sheet,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, all right.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
We do apply to, I think, I want to say like 60 towns overall in New Hampshire.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure how many.
Actually pay.
How many?
No, those are 60s that pay.
These are everybody that pays.
Yeah. And we apply to more than obviously that pays. We get turned down some.
Right, so I don't think we paid last year.
No, it didn't work
It's
out
on
last
here,
year.
it says if we paid.
What's that?
It's on here if we paid.
Because I think we heard that it had been approved, but then I think it got disapproved in the latter portion of the process. Is that the
It didn't
case?
get approved because you kept not showing up, remember that?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was with Marina, and then
Yeah.
I canceled the last minute.
Yeah.
Because I got.
That's what,
We
that-
were rebranding the agency. Yeah, we had a tumultuous period.
and that's one of the, that's why we didn't, basically, why we didn't refund you,
Oh.
didn't fund you anything.
So.
Because I had called Tim. Is Tim here?
No.
That's good.
He's downstairs. I should introduce myself. I had called him wondering why. I didn't realize it was that. Yeah, we went through a period where we were rebranding the agency. We moved from Child and Family Services to our new name, Waypoint, for a
Yeah.
variety of reasons. I'm happy to explain to you if you care to hear them. And it was just event after event and meeting after meeting that I got pulled into. I know I talked to Maria at the last minute about canceling because
Yeah,
my CEO wanted to do something. And, yeah, I apologize.
okay, so that's the basic reason why
Oh,
we.
okay. How many people do you serve from all the other towns as well?
Overall, I think we serve over 8,000 people statewide. That number fluctuates widely because a lot of it is referrals, adjudication. We do a human trafficking program, which will fluctuate depending on who's found. When I started, it was around 9,000. It's 8,000 now. I think it will.
And then how many are from Tilton? You said 20?
I said it's 23. we had,
23.
literally, and that's down a couple from last year. And I had the reason, it's just a couple, and the numbers in Tilton and every town will fluctuate again for the same reasons, which is, it depends on referrals, who the school system does, who doctors refer to us. And as we'll take, I remember last year, I thought, maybe it was the year before, there was a question like, how do you get referred to us? Usually a professional will refer to you, like school or health, but you can also look us up online, and people do just call in and say, I've got this problem. You can refer yourself, essentially.
It's counseling services essentially?
Well, a lot of it's counseling services. We run 24 programs across the state, not every program in every community. There are a variety, but a lot are counseling. A lot of this one is counseling.
Was this originally it is a statewide program? Was it originally a state program or was it a private program?
I'm sorry, you're referring to which program?
Waypoint.
Waypoint.
So it's, I mean, I was just reading that it's a statewide program. And it was originally.
We were founded in 1850 as the Manchester City Missionary Society. We've changed our names probably a dozen times in those 170 years.
Yeah.
We actually, funny, when we were rebranding, which is a whole story into itself, frankly, between you and me, I'm not crazy about the new name, but okay. We had wanted Waypoint of New Hampshire, and it got left on the cutting room. But it's the same, we're the identical agency. We do a little bit of service in the Upper Valley, Vermont, but we're by and large only New Hampshire.
And the majority of your funding is federal?
It is federal and state. Like, for example, we just won 2 grants from the federal government for youth and runaway services. But all federal money, and the human trafficking prevention program will be federal money, but then those are targeted for just whatever. Those are targeted to a certain project. So we can't use that money. All state and federal money, as you know, has to be
restricted.
Right.
So how do you guys come up with how much to ask from each town? Is it
Honestly,
user base or is it just, we're going to ask for 3,000 because 3,000 sounds
It's
good?
eyeball. We look at the number of people we serve year in, year out. We assess it. If we had jacked up 2 years in a row at 50 people, we might consider asking you for more. There's not a program we offer in the state that makes money. We lose money in every program. So what we do is come to the towns, 60 or I'm not certain, maybe more, and ask to help us defer the cost of the services we provide. And if I'm completely honest, whether you provide that funding or not, we're not turning away people. It's a little bogus insofar as to say, if you don't give us money, we're only going to serve 15 people. No, we're not. We're going to do the full, whoever's referred to us. Yeah, but we do try to cast a net, and I want to go more. We have a big operation in the Upper Valley that just recently expanded because there's a lot of need up there. And I'd like to begin exploring towns there where we might begin the same application process. It's not that we're done. We target a couple of people to pick on, and that's it. I'd like to get out as many towns as possible that we serve. The one problem is the numbers fluctuate. So in Raymond this year, we served 20 people last year, and I think we're asking for $1,000 this year. It's 6. Next year will be 30. That's just honestly the nature of it.
So there is some correlation with how much you ask for how many people you serve?
We try to. So for example, there's not a town where we serve 2 people where we ask for $3,000. This is one of our, and I should study my numbers better, but if I look over that list, this is one of our larger asks. I mean, our biggest asks are, I think, Nashville and Exeter. 'cause
They're much larger than us. We're
Yeah.
3,000 people.
Yeah, and our ask is like,
Meredith, you asked me a lot of them.
yeah, but we do a
Okay.
lot of, we have to actually do a lot of services in Meredith. Yeah, but if you ask me if it's pegged scientifically,
Northfield, you're asking
pretty close. And I don't know specifically, it's possible there's another additional program in Northfield, and that could be one or two families that need substance abuse counseling or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blow you off last year. I just,
No, no, that's all right.
Things happen.
things happen. Well, I suspect we're not going to change our name for another 50 or 60 years, so
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years.
yeah. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Janice Woodrow.
What's that?
Janice Woodrow works for me.
Oh, she does, okay.
She was.
Hello, how are you? Well,
She started with them in the child family services,
Uh-huh.
then she went to,
All sorts of things, 76 programs.
she was
studying
working
in
with
the way
kids.
there and seeing what everyone else is doing. It's like,
Yep, all the things you were saying, I was like, yep.
yeah.
How are you like?
Ready for tomorrow, huh?
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you, Marina.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a good ride.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi Beth, you guys ready to come
Yes,
up?
absolutely.
Okay.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good to see everybody again.
Good to see you again. All right.
So, does everyone have the asks that we,
Somewhere here.
I'm sure you guys have a lot of stuff. This is Patty Kirk. She is a manager for the Franklin Area Center. Her almost full year as manager. She's almost to the year mark. So we sent you a packet, kind of giving you an overview of the services that Tilton received. The amount this year was $267,105. And that is just specific to the area center. I didn't do the full amount like I did when we were here back in March talking to you guys.
The services that were provided
Yes, yep.
to Tilton.
To Tilton residents, yep, so fuel assistance, the things that the area center does specifically. And
How much was that?
$267,100.05. About 60,000 difference. The big thing with these is that weatherization can really change that, because if someone gets weatherization in Tilton, that can be $5,000 or it can be $50,000. And then, because we didn't have a food pantry at our area center this past year, the numbers dropped there because we're not giving food directly, unfortunately. So that is another difference in numbers because we aren't able to give food directly. We still provide food to all of the pantries in the Franklin Tilton area, but we are not giving food out directly until we move into a permanent space.
Any change on that, on the move?
Yes, there's some really good change, but I'm not really allowed to
Okay.
talk about it. It's not 100% definite yet, but we're moving in the right direction for that.
Did you work out of the regular deal thing in last year, or did you move to the town to do some?
We are at the town hall
Okay, that's
since October 1st, actually, so we've been at the town hall for a year,
great.
which has been gracious and wonderful,
Yeah.
but we're excited to get our own space again and have a food pantry.
Are you guys doing the same location or not?
No, we are not moving back to the 82 Elkins. The grant and all of that just didn't work to make that space really work. We had to completely tear it down and build fresh, and as you can imagine, that's a lot of money. So we determined not to go that way. But last year we had an ask of $26,000. We came back in. We had a really informative meeting, at least on our side. And you guys funded us at $20,000. The ask this year is $12,000. And there's no equation where that comes from because we're talking about people and we're talking about services that can change from one year to the next. But we really tried to realign our ask closer to the amount of services that you guys receive. And that's why we dropped to $12,000.
It was a big
That was
fight
my
last
issue
year.
last year, that we paid 4 times
Yep,
for the amount of services than any other town.
absolutely.
And,
Is other towns going to be paying similar to us or more?
We always have that ask. I'm not sure how it's gonna go
Are
this
we
year.
still gonna be the highest paying town?
No. I think you're gonna be the same as Northfield. And not sure how it's gonna go with Franklin because they've given us a space for free for a year.
Well, I think that's,
And so,
should be very,
And we
should be
understand that.
incorporated as in
Yep,
time.
yep.
because
and
that's-
before,
Last year, that was my issue, said Franklin should give you,
yep.
because they weren't giving you anything.
Right.
So they should have given you.
So I think they'll probably still give us around 6,000 cash, but money, and then the rest will be because they've given us space for a year.
Well, I appreciate that you realigned that.
Absolutely, and we did that across the boards.
Yeah.
And some towns needed to pay more. Unfortunately, we can't force any town to
Right,
pay,
right, right.
but we can come and talk to them and thank them, and we're very thankful for you guys. You guys have always been supportive of us, and it's huge.
Well,
We
you
wouldn't,
do a great service, I mean, really.
yeah, we wouldn't be able to do
I
it.
don't know what we would do without you. I mean, our welfare budget would be God knows what if it weren't for what you guys do, I'll tell you.
Well, we appreciate the support, and we ask every town in the 2 counties for money, and every town does give us something. So I can say that, which is nice to be able to say that every town does support us.
Yeah, good.
We're working on some of the towns supporting us a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as it's not the full burden of our town.
Absolutely.
Like it was before.
Yep. And we're
Maybe we
lucky.
can get to be one of the, not the highest paying town or not
Yep.
tied with it, maybe we can be
Yep.
one of the 3rd or 4th down.
Yep. I totally agree.
Is
You guys
there- do we have a list somewhere that we were given for what the other towns are paying?
I did not provide that, but Patty, do you have the letters? I do have the amounts.
Oh, okay, that'd be
Give me a
cool
second.
to look at.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so Danbury, they usually give us 2,100, and their amount of services is under $100,000. Sanbornton,
Do you have a list maybe we can get a photocopy of real quick?
I don't. It's all separate, unfortunately. I can email that to Marina if that's helpful
That's
for you
right.
guys.
That'd be
Yeah,
fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, I can do that.
Said what was Sanborn? I'm sorry.
They were 2,200, and they get a little over 100,000 in services a year. And then Salisbury's 2,000 that they give us,
Okay.
and they this year actually dropped quite a bit. They only got 27,000 in services.
So
Again,
what is the top? Is it just us in Northfield that are going to be paying 12,000?
yes,
It's in, okay, so
Yep,
we are
and then-
still the highest paying town.
yes, yep. And
Where's the
then
next closest?
that would be
2,000
Franklin.
and 12,000, that's 10,000 difference.
Yeah, it would be Franklin at
How much is it?
6,000.
6,000.
Yeah.
So we're still paying double any closest town.
Yes. Yeah. And Franklin is
It's
by far
an
the
improvement, but we still, yeah, still not as much as we'd really like to see.
Well, I think it's fine. I think it dropped.
We're still paying double what
So-
everyone in the town is paying. I think the other towns should have to balance this out. Shouldn't be the burden of our back, especially how we've been paying way more than double.
Yeah, but look how much they've provided to us. 267.
But other towns can pay 2,000 and get the same.
Well, you need to look at the services themselves, really, to figure that out.
and the towns that are paying 3,000 are 100,000 and less in services.
Right.
It's dramatically
And we're
different.
200 and what?
267,000.
There are some services that are more expensive than others, really. I mean,
Yes.
Those towns still, even if you had 2 towns that are getting 100,000 for services, they would still be paying $4,000 or $5,000. So.
Unfortunately, when you look at it that way, then you're asking the smallest towns to provide more money. So yes, we are. That's
We're
where
a small town. So.
true, but Hill is a very small town, and Danbury is a very small town. Right.
I need to worry about Tilton though.
I agree.
That's who I hear
I
about.
agree, and we want to worry about Tilton as well, but we also want to worry about the other 7 towns that are in this catchment area. And we are working towards having these smaller towns give us a little bit more every year to get us to where we need to be. But unfortunately, that's a very slow process, and it's these sort of things that take a year. Sometimes it takes 2 years, but we are working on that.
And it's also the ability of the town to pay, like, we have a huge tax base, where some of the small towns don't have that.
It
I
should
think
be-
Franklin,
should be the burden
The
of that.
Franklin issue is that they just don't have money.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Franklin is.
Well, we can spend it
Yeah.
because we might not have
Yeah.
money.
They
So.
don't have those river mills like they used to.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't have the amount of services for Franklin because they're a city and none of their stuff is due yet. So I haven't I actually have it in my office, but I don't have it with me because we haven't sent that stuff in. But I can include that in the amount of services and the amount of money that we ask. So, do you have any other questions for the services we provide?
No, but we do appreciate it.
Absolutely. You do a great service, don't get me wrong. It's just I would like to see us on a even, like, what would it take if we were on like an even with other towns? Like if we paid like 6,000 or something, would that really take away from your services?
So nothing's going to take away very much to what that man said is that we can't not provide services, but what that might look like is instead of us being open 5 days a week, we maybe have to be open 3 days a week, which means people would take longer to get the services.
So $6,000 might shut you down to, that's what I'm talking about. Would $6,000 turn you down a day a week?
Well, not 6,000, but in 1 year we went from 20 to 12, and then if we go from 12 to 6, so no, it wouldn't shut us, I'm not saying it's going to shut us down, but if that was happening across the boards, then yes, it would have ramifications. Your people in Tilton would still get services, 100%. That, don't hear me that we would not provide those services. It just may take a little longer because we'd have to have a smaller staff, not open as much, because what costs money is to run those area centers. That's what costs money. You know, it's staff and salary and computers and that kind of thing.
So it wouldn't drastically affect, like no one would this year if we didn't go the full amount, the 12,000.
I mean, we wouldn't shut down, but obviously I am pleading for the 12,000 because it is a drastic change from the 20. But yeah. Any other questions?
So the next highest town is 6,000, you said?
Yes.
Is Franklin.
Yep.
And they're obviously getting you. And then what was the next one after that?
Yeah, but they know that Northfield is there. I believe it's 3,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that is Andover. But I'll make sure to email Marina all that information so she can give it to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
You have how many people?
We have 3 staff, yep. 2 full-time and 1 part-time.
Seems like not enough. But...
It is not, but we make do.
Right,
We make
right.
do. Yep. All right, well, thank you again. I appreciate you guys always hearing us, and
Thank you so much.
if you have any questions, reach out to me.
Okay, we'll do, thank you.
It was great to meet you.
Yes.
It's nice to put a face to a name when you email.
I know, and chit chat. Thank you, girls.
Good night.
You do.
Yes, 100%.
That's
Just be silent.
Good, how are you?
Good. Are you ready for me?
Well, ready as ever, we.
All right.
Yes.
Everything's good.
God, busy.
Yeah, I already.
October is always a busy time for our organization. Okay. If you don't know me, my name is Ann Nichols. I'm the Director of Development for Lakes Region Mental Health Center.
And for those who don't remember, that's old Genesis.
Genesis Behavioral Health, yeah. In the
In the beginning.
in the be- Actually, in the very beginning, it was Lakes Region Mental Health Center.
Yes, it was.
And then, because of stigma, we adopted a doing business as name, and that was Genesis Behavioral Health. But then when we moved into our new facility on January 1st, 2018, we dropped the DBA and took back. So it was, I call it our coming out party. So, but anyway, that's kind of the history. So you've received a financial request package. We served 185 Tilton residents last year. 52 of those utilized our emergency services, which is the program that we ask all 24 of our municipalities to help support financially. I did give you the breakdown in ages just so you have that. We provided $45,652 in uncompensated care. And that means care that was given, but for which we received no compensation for. So, I don't know if you have any questions off the top of your head, if you want me to go in a specific direction.
Any questions?
The money that we're giving is going towards people that can't make payments, or just helping to gap that?
It's used to help offset the deficit for providing emergency services. See, we're required by the state of New Hampshire in our contract to provide every town emergency services. So we deliver that regardless of whether or not people can pay for their care. Unfortunately, the ER tends to be the first place people go when they're in crisis. So it's expensive for us to run. It's a 24/7 operation where we operate out of 3 hospitals: Franklin, Lakes Region, and Spear. So that means that we have psychiatrists and master level clinicians on call 24/7. We also assist with the doorway at LRGH. So we staff that as well as the senior psychiatric unit at the hospital. Does that help?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
How has Lakes Region's problems affected you? Has it?
Oh, yeah. The demand for services keeps going up. We saw just in emergency services, total agency was 11% increase in the need for emergency services. Last year was 38. So the challenges that we face are, yes, the New Hampshire epidemic with opioid crisis, but it's also a long-standing severe workforce challenge, a shortage of workers for revenue-producing positions, and that would be therapists and clinicians. That's been really difficult. Medicaid reimbursement rates have been underfunded for, well, the last rate, except for what just happened, was 2006. So we've had to cover the workforce shortages. We've had to hire per diems, which are very expensive. We've had to add sign-on bonuses and do some adjustments to the clinical staff level.
Is your turnover still as bad as it was?
Yes, 22 it varies, 21, 23%. So we have that issue. At the same time, I can tell you, this was yesterday's numbers. We had 27 adults and 49 children waiting for services from Lakes Region Mental Health Center. Now, we usually get them in within 10 days, but for someone who's really needs to be seen as sooner rather than later, that's too long. So when I send you our audited financials for fiscal year 19, you'll see that we ran an operational loss. And those are the factors that kind of fed into it. So I just wanted to explain that to you. Because at the time that I did the app, those numbers weren't available. And our 990 won't be available until next month, but I will forward those on to you, certainly. So that's kind of what we're up against. What we've decided to do for the next 12 months is we've hired an outside firm using grant funds from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation to hire a consultant and training company that will help us implement an initiative called Same Day Access. And what that will do is when patients actually walk in for care, excuse me, I've got this cold, they'll be able to be seen same day as opposed to waiting. And how we do that requires a lot of change in how we handle our business. It requires us to automate electronically some of the information that we gather from patients so that it's transferred right directly into the EMR, the electronic medical record, and that allows the physician real-time access to that information. So,
If it's somebody who's suicidal and they call in,
okay,
do they take the place of somebody else who's also in need, or what?
no. That's the one thing about emergency services, there's no wait list. Because if somebody is suicidal or is in a mental health crisis and they walk into the ER, they see somebody immediately.
Okay.
This is for all the rest that come in for outpatient services.
I had a friend who went through it a few years ago where he was suicidal and took them 19 hours to be able to be seen via a video monitor at the hospital. You guys still do the video monitoring stuff? Like
We do.
Yeah, with someone?
We do use telehealth because, just for the logistics, rather than having a psychiatrist in 3 different hospitals, which would be cost prohibitive, that's how we do it. They have to have an assessment within a certain period of time. The fact that it took 19 hours is not acceptable. Yeah, I don't know if that was here locally or whether or not that was somewhere else. But if you hear about, I know you've probably heard in the news about the ER boarding crisis, that's what you're talking about, is patients who are going into ERs all over and are being...
It'd be nice to have you guys to be able to afford to put a psychiatrist in each hospital.
It would be, but, they each have
Yeah,
6-figure salaries. Because they're, consider this, they're medical doctors who are also trained in psychiatry. So they're pretty big ticket physicians.
Jim Hospital can't hire one, someone in that area, multiple degrees.
Unfortunately, the hospitals, especially in this area, are going downhill.
They're struggling.
There was a time that Franklin was considered, and now Franklin, I'd rather go to Franklin than to LRGH right now.
Yeah.
My own.
And what's interesting is it's our physicians that staff the designated receiving unit in Franklin Hospital. So if someone had a crisis and needed to get to the state hospital, they can be placed in Franklin instead of New Hampshire Hospital. So our psychiatrists handle those cases, as well as the ones that are up at the senior psych ward at LRGH. Yeah. So we have a contract with them, as opposed to the hospital buying their own doctor. So that's how they do that.
Just curious, sorry.
Is your request by valuation of town? Or?
Yeah, well, it's not by valuation. It's done by population census. And actually, that idea came out of this committee. I think you were part of that, right?
Yeah.
Years ago, I don't even know how they based the ask, but what we do now is that we base each town's ask based upon population, what percentage of population in the census. Now, with the new census coming up in 2020, I don't know how that's going to roll out. More to come on that. There'll be some time. See, well, yeah,
Hampton requested $7,000. Are they that much bigger than us?
Census-wise, they were. Well, this is 2010 census.
Okay, so that might be.
That may have changed. Yeah. We'll see what happens when the 2020 is out.
In Belmont, it's like 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah, the populations have really changed, and I think we'll see some movement of numbers in both directions. I would have no idea how that's going to fall. I wouldn't dare predict.
Actually, Sanverton, which is, I don't think it's much as we are, we have 8,700 of them.
And they don't fund us.
And they didn't fund you. I can
No.
see that. I mean, that's just not.
They're one
their
of 610.
population was probably less than Tilton.
I forget what it was when you first came to us, it was an ungodly amount.
That's
Yeah.
why I thought about evaluation, because of course, unless you're counting all the summer residents that are there which aren't actually residents, maybe that's what how you're making the population thing work.
Well, that's not, the census wouldn't do
A
it.
census wouldn't do it that way. No, they would do it as primary residents.
Okay.
But,
Well, I'm just saying, this is kind of askew here, if that's the way you're saying it.
Right. well, we're 19 years after when those numbers were, and they were all taken directly from the census, so that's what I mean. I'm thinking that we're going to see some
There's
change.
never been more people than we have. So I'm just wondering why they're twice as much as us.
Not as due diligent as us, I guess. So.
Maybe the census people.
And I think I sent in the package, just so you have an idea, how many people we serve in each town. Did I give that to
I
you?
don't know if we have that.
I'm going to give this to
We
you.
have the towns and the requests, but.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, you can keep
That's what I
that.
was looking at.
Can't we keep this?
Yes, you can keep that.
This is what I was looking at.
Okay, that was, that's right. What I just handed over gives you an idea of each.
Marina, can you make copies of this for us?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I probably should have brought extras with me. I don't think I have any others with me. But this will give you an idea of how many people we served in each town, how much charity care was provided. And there's two columns, one for municipal funding, town funding, and then one for county funding. Because the towns fund emergency services, but the counties are asked to support adult outpatient, which is a whole separate program. That's for adults 18 and up who are uninsured or underinsured and need short-term counseling to keep them out of the ER. So the last 3, maybe 4 years, Belknap didn't fund. Grafton did. So that's what you'll see those numbers on there, just so you have that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank
It's
you.
always good
Yeah.
to see all my friends in Tilton, so thank you
There
for
was
the
a time-
invitation.
There was a time that people who keep wanting to say Genesis wouldn't have said that.
Well, I know, that was back then,
That was the dark ages.
dark
Oh,
ages.
bloody.
Yes.
It was, really.
It was, yeah.
Bad.
Oh, you,
The cat
okay,
lights
I
are
don't
not-
know.
Oh, there's a color.
Yeah, give me the color one to Jane.
Monkey.
I will, yes.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Ann.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Beans.
Thanks, Marina. Appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank you.
Was that really?
Yeah, we do. Holy cow.
Great.
Jeez. Well, glad you guys got that up.
Can you read my writing?
You can just print
Second.
All right.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So be it. Thank you, Ann.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool, guys. Great meeting. Let me go turn on the camera. That was adjourned. Look at that.